How does a British author manage to tell a story about American tragedy, about suffering, about crime, and thousands stolen lives? Kate Moore decided one day, attended one performance of what is called The Shining Lives, and she decided to find out more about the story. That's how it happened that she wrote this book. She visited America, she visited Chicago, she visited New Jersey. She met with relatives and friends of these four girls. She found some documents and letters and other correspondence. She made a huge job to write about American tragedy, what I have no idea, and I believe that most Americans have no idea about this. I just have one question. Why our American authors write so many non-fiction about politics, about different kind of wars, about patriotism in our country? Why no one in America write about radiation, what has happened in the 20th century? Honestly, the more I learn about American history, the more shocked I have. It's even not every century, no, it's every decade it's something happened. This book is great example of what is still going on in our country, that how it's usually happened, rich people always right. Huge corporation totally doesn't care about their employers. For them, if someone's life is nothing. For them, it's more important is money. And in this book, it shows how it's girls who has already disease, who already suffering, and they still stay loyal to the company, and they still hard work for the company because they believe that company couldn't lie to them, and they absolutely safety there. I asked my husband, I asked my friends, and no one from all of them heard about Radium case, what has happened in the 20th century, about this huge tragedy. That's extremely sad. And now I understood why half Americans believers and half Americans drug addicted, because I don't see other way how to stay sane in this country. And before when we continue to talk about the book, what's going on in the book, let's first to understand what is the radium. Radium is a radioactive chemical element discovered by Maria and Pierre Curie in 1898. It's a silver-white metal, but the important part is that it naturally emits radiation, which can be both useful and dangerous. So radium, a naturally occurring element found in tiny amounts in uranium ores. Highly radioactive, it releases energy in the form of alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. It glows faintly in the dark because of radiation exciting surrounding materials. Usually radium extracted from other materials. Basic process is mine uranium ore, chemically process the ore, separate radium from uranium and other elements. Before radium used for medicine, glowing in the dark paint is what we will mostly talk about. Scientific research mostly helped scientists understand the radioactivity and why it's not used anymore, because radium is very dangerous, causes cancer, bone damages, hard to handle safely, replaced by safer alternatives like cobalt-60. So when Pierre and Maria Curie discover this element, as a science they start to learn a little bit about this element, and they find out that radium produces more red cells. And they decided that it's very healthy for you, but because it's strong to get it, it was mostly for rich people. The companies decided to put small amount of radium everywhere where it's possible, and that's what it was. On sale were radium lingerie, radium butter, radium milk, radium toothpaste, guaranteeing a brighter smile with every brushing, and even a range of radium cosmetics which offered radium-laced face cream, soap, rouge, and compact powders that always to have with you. Other products were more prosaic. The Radium Eclipse Sprayer, trumpeted in one ad, quickly kills all flies, mosquitoes, roach, and you. It doesn't say it's new, but we know, right? It has no equal as a cleaner of furniture, porcelain, tile. It is harmless to humans and easy to use. So that's what is mostly saying to the people at that time, that radium is not harm, but it can help your health to become stronger. But now we know, thanks to the God, thanks to these poor girls, radium is very dangerous because when you breathe radium, when you eat radium, when radium came inside of your body, because radium and calcium, they're very similar, your body reads that it's calcium and it's directly delivered to your bones. So that's why mostly it caused bones cancer. One of the hardest cancer because it's affected all your bones. And bones is what is harder to take out from your body. It has existed some other books about radiation from the radium. But exactly in this book, Kate Moore decided to talk about the girls, about their lives, about their wishes, about their goals, about their lives, about their relatives and friends, about their works. So this book was very valuable because it's mostly about the side of the girls, about their fights against of big corporations. That you can feel even more this desperate and suffering condition what they have. Orange, Newark in New Jersey, 1917. Catherine, who is 17 years old, rushing for her new job. It's a studio that is recently open and everyone wants to be part of the studio because it's very high salary compared with salaries in the factory. Catherine feels that she is extremely lucky because she is one of that shining girls now. And now she is dial painter and she is very proud that she can have this job. She was hypnotized of all the shinies everywhere, about this beautiful glamour life, and she can wait when she finally can start working with this water element, radium. Girls were happy working there. They're laughing and joking all the time. We would first dip the brush into water, then into the powder, and then point the ends of the bristles between our teeth. Easy job for good wage with a good company, and even more, it can make you healthier. Unfortunately, Radium Company, they were very greedy. They even not allowed them use water anymore. So girls supposed to use only their mouths. When the shift was over and they were about to leave for home, they were summoned to the dark room to be brushed off. The sparkling particles were then swept from the floor into a dustpan for use the next day. But no amount of brushing could get rid of all the dust. The girls were covered in it. Their hands, arms, necks, the dresses, the underclothes, even the corsets of the dial painters were luminous. Anna both remembered, when I would go home at night, my clothing would shine in the dark. You could see where I was, my hair, my face. The girls shone like the watches did in the dark room, as though they themselves were timepieces counting down the seconds as they paced. They glowed like ghosts as they walked home through the streets of Orange. Highway C on that time it was count one of the prestige jobs whereas most girls wanted to join, and they used their chances because it started First World War and soldiers needed more watches that shine in the dark. So girls who worked in the studio, they invite their sisters, their friends. Thousands and thousands of the girls were happy to work in the studio with Radium. Molly, the girl who worked in the studio from 1917, worked until 1921 because at that time her jaw started hurting. She went to the doctor. Doctor pulled few teeth, but it's even more started hurt. So he pulled more teeth, and after some time it even doesn't need to pull anymore because they fall by themselves. She became struggles to eat food. Her throat started hurt also. And after huge struggling and suffering from the disease, nobody know what it is, Molly find a peace. She died. Molly died in 1922, but 1921 when she had a lot of suffering, she read a new article in magazine. What it said, radium is safe. Buy radium tablets, add years to your life. and she was waiting for these tablets that she can take it and finally feel healthy. After Molly, other girls start to feel bad and they dying also, and doctors couldn't say what's going on with them, so they claim different diseases, it's syphilis, it's pneumonia, it's Vincent's angina, and others, because doctors simply couldn't understand what's going on. But it was hard in that time also that doctors usually couldn't share notes, and probably they even didn't have this option how we have today, it right with internet, social media and other stuff. So unfortunately each case was isolated. What is another, what it was a slow process to understand that radium is very dangerous, it's researches. Researches what is paid by radium companies. And that's in some way even funny because we still have many researchers what is paid by the other companies, what is interested in these researches. And I surprised and I don't quite understand this moment why still government can stop that other companies who is interested in this research pay for them. And that's what is happening in 1920s, that radium companies, they simply paid for the scientists, for their researchers, that they will say that radium is healthy for you. Girls in New Jersey one by one start to feel very bad. All of these girls, they came to this job to have more money because some of them have families, some of them have children, some of them have siblings, many siblings who need money. After couple years, they understood that they feel extremely bad. They start to pay for doctors as huge bills, and mostly of them, they couldn't afford all these bills. Whole families, they had huge debts to cover bills from the doctors. Catherine and other her friends, they decided to use the company. Unfortunately, it became very hard because all lawyers, they wanted money. And that girls who already has a lot of debts with doctors, obviously they couldn't find the money. So to prove that they are right and radium is very bad for your body, they simply can't. New County physician Harrison Mortland, he first did tests of bones and organs and declared that radium is radioactive and can be cured. He was just a regular physician who did his job, and nobody was care about this because radium companies, they wanted that no one knew that radium is harm. Even when they start understand that it's very dangerous, they started to use their money to cover the truth. We decided to take this case. It was Raymond Berry, and he really fight for them. But eventually, the radium companies, they will pressure him. And these girls had agreement that they would have $10,000 for that time, $600 each year for the medical bills. Girls were already tired of all the situation, and they understood that probably better agree with these conditions, because probably it's the most what they can get. The radium company, they see that girls in the very poor condition, and probably they anyway wouldn't live a lot. And how they were upset when they found out that after 1 year, these 5 girls, they're still alive. So they recounted their budget and they decided that they need to cut their payments because they pay for the girls too much and it's damaged their company. And for me, it's the most ridiculous what I read in this book, because they paid only 5 girls. Only 5 girls get payment from this company, and the company, what is, I'm pretty sure, had millions and millions of dollars. They decided that they paid too much for these 5 girls, and we should remember that it's thousands girls still quiet. It's thousands of girls that still couldn't understand what's going on. And the company just like, well, they live too long, we pay too much, and we need to cut their budget. What the scientists learned at that time is that radium very confused element. and it came to your bones, it damaged your organs. You can suffer and die in couple years. You can feel absolutely perfect 10 years and suddenly die, or you can live even 50 years. It would be constantly pain for you. So mostly it's hard to predict what has happened to you, and the company, of course, have no idea about this. About this case with 5 girls was talk mostly in magazines, and what is mostly interesting that in 1922, in the small town in Ottawa in Illinois, opened a new radium dial company. Radium dial seems not to have been as concerned as USRC company in New Jersey had been about wasting material. Former employers report that the radium was handled carelessly, and in contrast to the brushing down in orange, washing was a voluntary procedure, and not many of the workers made use of the washing facilities. Why would they? When they could go home glowing like angels. The girls were the envy of others in the little island town. When they stepped out with their boyfriends at night, their dresses and hats, and sometimes even their hands and faces aglow with the phosphorescence of the luminous paint. So how you see in Ottawa, a company that wasn't so gritty, and they just like, it's sure you even can take it to the home and use in the home. It's absolutely no problem. We care about you, we care about your health, and that's for sure what it will help your health. So people, they took, they paint their walls inside their houses, they painting their teeth because it was funny. They use radium like eye shades, and they use radium almost for everything because they believe that it was health. After 3 months as a radium dial company, they found out about case in New Jersey. They understood that radium is very harmful, but they decided to cover the truth, and they tell girls that radium is not dangerous. They also make tests of the girls who worked there 1 year, and they understood that the girls are already radioactive, but no one showed to the girls this test. Girls have no idea that their health already damaged. When it happened this huge boom in New Jersey and all magazines start screaming that radium is dangerous, an Ottawa company told girls that in New Jersey they use different radium, what is dangerous, and they used radium, what is not dangerous. So girls shouldn't be worried and continue work how they worked before. And all the situation repeat. Girls became sick, they went to the doctors. Doctors couldn't understand what's going on. After some time, the doctors already understood that it's because of radium. But this company, they paid all doctors around. The doctors would tell the girls not from the radium, but it's a different disease cause of their problems. And here we have a girl, Catherine Wolf Donahue, and she started to work with company from the beginning. So she worked 9 years and she started limping. And in January, her conditions became worse and worse, but she anyway continued work hard and stay loyal, even when she understood that her condition is bad and something wrong, and probably it's radium, she anyway stayed loyal to the company. So American actually. I think in Europe you couldn't find it, but in America it's plenty like this when many people, they hard workers, they are loyal to the companies, and eventually they have nothing or just coins. And that's absolutely fine. I think one of the most hard workers people live in America. So Katrina, after 9 years, company fired her because she is sleeping and stopped work good as she worked before. At this time, Katrina already had husband and even one child. In her condition going poor and poor and poor and poor, she visited many doctors and many doctors couldn't say what's going on. Eventually she understood that it's from radium. For company it's harder and harder to cover that radium is dangerous. Eventually she found out that it's from the radium, and when she almost couldn't walk, she understood that she is again pregnant. And because they are Catholics, they can do abortion, so she gave birth to the little girl. And we see that for her children the future is not so good because her oldest son, he died from the cancer at 30s, and her youngest daughter, she died at 50s, but she was suffering whole time. Eventually, Katrina, she found a lawyer who doesn't care about money, but more important for him is truth, is Grossman. It was hard for Katrin because her condition is worse and worse and worse, but still she tried to become strong, and eventually they won this case against of the company, and the company pay some money for Katrin, but afterwards they decided to appeal one time and another time, and eventually Katrin died because she couldn't bear all the time to fight that she is right. Even after her death, it was a few more appeals from the company, and last one, it was in Supreme Court. So Grossman got special license to be admitted to the Supreme Court because it was needed special license. And because of Grossman, the Dial Panthers eventually won. It's very sad, a tragic story, and I still don't understand why people don't talk about this, because even still in Ottawa, where it was located, this studio, it's still counting like radioactive. I don't understand why Americans so much won't go and look for Chernobyl if you have your own Chernobyl here. In America. It's not so far. You can like go to New Jersey or to the Ottawa in Illinois, and there you can see your little Chernobyl. And it's even hard to say where were more victims in Chernobyl or in America, because it was only girls who work in the studio who have disease, but it was also their friends and relatives with who they the most communicate. And girls, they work after their work around the town, they everywhere left radium. So mostly all the people in the town, they were affected by radium. So book what I definitely recommend you to read. It's a story what is caused insomnia for me, because I couldn't stop think about this for girls. It's so much terrifying story. For me, the most sad is that still it's nothing changed. Still rich people more right than poor people because they have money, so they have better lawyers than poor people, and they're very sad. And we have so many kind of the same cases in the Walmart, in Amazon, in Tesla, and others. But mostly no one can prove that they're right because they simply doesn't have this money. And that's what is sad, and that's what we should to scream about. Hope that eventually it will be changed. So thank you that you've been with me, and see you on my next video and next book.